So today I'm going to drop my biggest money mistake, and you probably see my daughters running behind me in a second if you're watching this on YouTube. So bear with me today, but we have gone through a lot financially, and obviously, current day we're financially free. We talk about this. I literally have this podcast right now. We're talking to you, and it seems like we've always had it all together financially. If you've been following my story for more than a year or two, you know how much we talk about her history, how we got to where we get, and I'm very transparent in that whole entire journey. And I will be up to 100 million. So when we hit 100 million, it won't be a surprise. I'm going to share the whole journey. It's going to be a super simple process. And so my biggest money mistake, without question, was the amount of debt that we took on at such a young age. So at 23 years old, we had $304,000 of debt. And this was absolutely insane. It was uncalled for. It was reckless. It was immature. And I lacked a lot of awareness. And it's really sad because a lot of people are in that same exact situation. They're lacking this awareness, right? This $76,000 of non-mortgage debt and $228,000 of mortgage debt for $304,000 total weighed on me and my wife at an incredible rate, to where it was really, really hard to really come to that reality. We just graduated school. We were doing everything everybody always told us. And all of a sudden, we had this $304,000 debt on our balance sheet. And we looked in the negative from a net worth standpoint because our assets did not account for $304,000 of debt. I think we were roughly around negative $8,000 net worth. And so starting out with a negative $8,000 net worth is nothing to be excited about. It's also very discouraging. And so if you're out there and you're listening to this and you don't even know what your net worth is because you haven't even started that process, just remember, I was there. So there was a point in time where I was there, became financially free, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. Now, the problem is, and what typically happens, is most people aren't going to believe that they can take this to the next level. And so what I'm trying to do today is not only show you the hurdles that we had to overcome to become financially free, but the reality of my mistakes, not to make them, and then just to show you that you actually can if you believe in yourself. But you have to have conviction in yourself. You have to have self-confidence. You have to see a long-term plan for this to happen. And a lot of people would tap out. Most people aren't going to be built for this. If you're listening to this, you probably are. You probably are working your way through financial freedom right now. You should have that specific date. You should know exactly when that is, right? So this breakdown of our debt was obviously the $228,000 of mortgage debt, but $76,000 of non-mortgage debt, consisting of $40,000 of student loans. I should have been much smarter. When we took this on, I didn't take high school serious. I was top 20 in my class without even trying. I didn't think about, actually getting good grades for the sake of getting a scholarship. My ACT was a total joke. I got a 21 on my ACT. Actually, I got a 19. And then I circled C for all the answers. This is real life. And then I went back and retook it, kind of tried, got a 21, and took it again to try to give, that last ditch effort, got another 21. Never studied, never cared, never tried. And that's embarrassing because the requirements at the University of Louisville, where I went, was a 24. In my GPA that I held, I think it was like a 3.5. And so I had like a 3.8 or something like that, 3.9. And so I had pretty good grades without trying, but I did not take my ACT serious, and my wife did. And she got the scholarship, the trustee scholarship at Louisville. And I think that was roughly $7,500 a year, something like that. And I don't know exactly what it was, but something like $7,500 or up to $7,500 a year, which is a sizable chunk of change back in when I went to college, which was 2010 to 2014. And so it's crazy to think that my wife just tried a little harder, got 3 points higher than me. I think she got a 24. I don't know what she got exactly. And she got the scholarship and I didn't, just because I didn't try. So that $40,000 of student loans could have been eliminated or close to eliminated if I just tried. At least 30,000, 4 years times 7,500, at least 3/4 of that would have been gone. And so therefore I would have graduated with $10,000 student debt. Now, one thing I do give myself credit for, when I went to school, I would find opportunities on campus to get scholarships. So one of them was the easiest thing in the world. I was surprised this was even legal. I could go into my University of Louisville portal. I think it was a card mail, and I could literally click a button every semester and get $500 off. And so like every student, at least I would hope every student took advantage of that. I'm sure they didn't, but like something like that I took advantage of. And then I wrote a ton of different essays and submitted them for like the business school where I was at, and I would get like different opportunities, like $2,000, $3,000, and I got a pretty good chunk of change of scholarships just from trying once I got to college. But I wish I would have been smarter in high school to prepare myself for this. Now, I didn't have a lot of guidance. Love my parents, but they never really talked or pushed the importance of that. So it wasn't like I understood. And again, it was because I lacked awareness. It was my fault. But like I was never told this was great. So I think a lot of kids are probably in my situation. They're with their friends, they're high school, nothing serious. You're just hanging out, and your parents might say it once or twice. Hey, you should probably try in school and try in this ACT. But you don't really understand the actual lasting impact, and you're just in high school, right? And so I lacked awareness, but so do a lot of children. And if you're a parent out there listening to this, send this podcast episode to your child because they need to hear this. The next debt was $22,000 of cars. I wish we got cheaper cars. Why didn't we? We didn't drive extremely fancy cars. Both of them were about $11,000 a piece, roughly speaking. And we took out the debt to take on those cars. But I wish we just went with a beater, honestly. Like we had really, really reasonable cars. They were nice. They weren't anything flashy. We had a 2012 Nissan Altima, and then we had a 2011 Hyundai Sonata at the time. So they were fairly new at the time. They were used. Both of them were used, 20 to 40,000 miles on both of them. And we got them for 11,000. That's actually a sweet spot for those four-door sedans, 4 to 5 years old, by the way. You typically find something around 10 to 15,000. I know people are like, used cars are so expensive now. There are ways to get around that. And I wish I would have gone cheaper than that, to be honest. But that was one of our mistakes as well. $10,000 ring was not my finest, decision making I've ever made. And so this was when I left and graduated college. I was waiting for a job in September. So I graduated in December 2014. I was starting my career in September 2015, and I had this 9-month gap where I was studying for my CPA. I've talked about that at length before. And I decided to propose, and I decided to buy a ring with $2,000 in my bank account, which obviously at the time I could not afford. And so I asked my wife to borrow money, an extra $2,000 to just hold me afloat for the next 4 months while also taking on a $10,000 debt. Dumbest thing ever, not necessary. In fact, the fact that we've even built this expectation you have to buy something to signal that you love somebody or you're committed to somebody is just a silly concept. It's just a stupid concept, quite honestly. And the industry and the marketing out there has really convinced people that you should spend 3 months of your salary. Like, who made that up? The marketing, the industry that's selling you it. And it's just a stupid concept. There should be nothing in this world that I have to buy to tell my wife that I love her or that I'm committed to her. That is such a crazy concept. You do you, but that just in general, it's not necessary. You don't even have to do it. Like, sure, society tells you to, which we'll get to in a second, but you don't have to do it. Like, that's a decision you made. It's a decision I made. One of the dumbest decisions ever. The next thing was a $4,000 bed. Wow, this was the first thing we paid off as far as our debt pay down journey. And so this bed really, really got to me. I remember New Year's Eve, I want to say 2015-ish. I think it was 2015. We had a New Year's Eve deal. We went to the mattress firm in Florence, Kentucky, and this guy, I've never been to a mattress firm before at that age. My parents, I just had a bed at my house, like a twin bed my whole life. I was always way too big for it. And so I never bought a bed, but it was amazing, like the salesmanship that somebody had at a mattress firm. I wasn't expecting that. Like, the quality of sleep, you get all these buzzwords, and I get where you sleep is important, but like, listen, we used to sleep on the ground as a human race, and we were totally fine. So like, sure, all of these are luxuries, but like, and they'll sell you on this great story as to why it matters so much. And eventually, yeah, get a nice bed, but a $4,000 bed when you have nothing to your name, probably not the wisest decision. And so, that $4,000 bed came with a $75 payment through Synchrony Bank. And I wish I would have just either saved up cash for it, not rushed into that sale, or just got a cheaper mattress instead. There was no need to get that entire mattress, which was a Tempur-Pedic mattress, starting in our house when we did not have anything to our name and had basically a negative net worth. There was no reason that was uncalled for. And so all of that stuff totaled $304,000 of debt. So when we started our process, it was extremely overwhelming. Like, wow, we have $304,000 of debt. I thought we were doing everything right. Everybody told me to get a house. Everybody told me to get a car. We would graduate with a great degree. I was only making $50,000, but my lifestyle was not aligned with that at all. In fact, like $304,000 of debt with a $50,000 income, plus my wife's income that was around $42,000 at the time, so $92,000 combined starting salaries. Our lifestyle was not aligned with that whatsoever. But there's these societal expectations around the lifestyle. Like, it is insane to me how much we justify in America. I always go back to this. Like, sure, we get better and bigger stuff all the time, like nicer cars, safer cars. I can't tell you how much society justifies away their purchases. And they'll say, like, oh, it's safety. I'm going to get the safest car. Like, what were you doing 10 years ago? You were okay with less safety? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So you want more safety now because it's available. So you're going to pay a premium for it when in fact you were okay with the most safe car 10 years ago and you had a totally fine life and you paid top tier at the time, instead of just saying, hey, that car is going to be fine. Like, as far as a safety protocol, like, it's going to do the job. And stop justifying everything. People are soft. The reality is people are soft. Everyone's the biggest and best of everything. Nobody can sacrifice, and society is messed up. And if you follow society's rules, you will be broke. That's what I did. That's why I'm so bitter towards societal rules and expectations, because everybody told me all this stuff was going to work, and I feel lied to. And it's no one's fault besides my own. But I am a little bitter towards everyone that just says, yeah, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Even after paying it off, even after become financially free, the same people that are promoting it see nothing wrong with that because they're living in the matrix. They're living in the basics of the basics and literally following everyone's little footsteps. People are soft. People have horrible expectations towards money. It's all a behavioral game, and their justification around this stuff is crazy. Like, oh, you should just get a 3-month salary ring. No, you shouldn't. If you can't afford it, you shouldn't be getting it. In fact, you don't need one. Oh, you should just get new cars. No, you shouldn't. Because they're safer. Oh, you should just take on student debt because it makes sense because you get a degree. But then you go for teaching and you come out with $100,000 in debt, making a $30,000 salary. You shouldn't do that. Use your common sense. I wish I would have had more of it when I was 17. Nobody screamed at me like you think somebody should. Like, everybody, you think in this situation, at least me, like, I'm screaming at you right now in fact, instance. I wish somebody screamed at me and told me how stupid I was. But everybody was just like, yeah, it's fine. And so when you see everyone around you just okay with it, you just go with the flow a lot of times, unless you really, really question people and you're curious and ask questions about what's this going to actually impact me like? What's the impact going to be like? And most people are just okay with death their whole life. They're okay with an average life. I'm not. I'm not at all. And so when I saw this, it was very disappointing to see that there are just so many average soft people out there. That's just the reality. And if you're listening to this, you're changing your life, you're changing your behaviors, align with being having a better life versus just going with the flow like everybody else does and justifying everything away and being okay with it and being soft about this. But it felt like I was driving over a bridge and like all these people were just driving over this bridge. It's disconnected at the end and people would just keep going over the side. And then there's just like these people watching and no one's saying anything. They're like, oh, whatever, it just kind of happens. It's expected. Everyone's going to crash and burn. It just felt like that. Like, if I was to analogize it, it felt like you see like you've seen those bridges that like are disconnected or they're not like together at the end, and you see like these cars driving over, like it's like, wow, because that car can't really see the future and they can't see that over, and all of a sudden they get to it, they're like, holy crap, I'm going over the edge, and no one said anything, no one's alerted them, and just going right over. It really felt like that, to be honest. But if you take society's advice, you're going to be painfully average and controlled your entire life. But most will lack this awareness that this is even happening because there's no resistance towards stupid decisions we make, and we're herd animals. So if we see everybody going about this, doing the same thing we're doing, going to school, taking out debt, going into their first house and taking out a big mortgage, going to get their first car because they got their big boy job or their big girl job and they deserve it, those people. And then also our rings or engagement rings. Like if you see everybody doing that, you're going to easily normalize yourself into that society. And if you're okay with that, you're going to be controlled your entire life and live an extremely, horribly, painfully average life. You're going to have debt your whole life. You're going to pay it off. You're going to have the same financial problems everybody has. You're going to work the same job you hate for your whole life. And you're going to become 65 and realize, I wish I would have known this sooner. I wish I would have listened to this podcast sooner. Where and why didn't I listen to Budget Dog earlier in my life? And everyone comes to that conclusion. Trust me, like everybody comes to that conclusion. They should listen to me earlier. But usually it's too late. And I want to catch your attention now to say, wake up. Because if you keep going down this path, you're going to continue to be controlled. The reason you can't get your finances in check is not because you don't have a budget or you don't have like X, Y, and Z template or you don't have like this tip or trick. It's because you're conditioned to do what society does, to do what normalized, what everybody does. So you keep taking on these things. You keep living the same life. You keep living 5 days at work, hating your job, then, going crazy on the weekend, going on these mini trips, taking on debt to do it because you hate your life. That's the reality, whether you like it or not. And so you can lie to yourself all you want, or you can fix your life. And so how I fixed it in particular is I took accountability. I said, okay, I was never taught this. Society told me all these sorts of things, but I need to fix my life once and for all. How am I going to go about doing that? What am I actually going to do? Although I was very dumb and unaware of my situation, it was still my fault. I still had to clean it up. So if somebody comes into, I always use this analogy. If you're walking down the street and you're just minding your own business, but somebody comes up and punches somebody that you're with, whose responsibility is that to clean that mess up, to take care of that mess? You're going to step in. It might be your spouse, it might be a friend, it might be a child. But if somebody threw water on your spouse out of spite for whatever reason, or they came into your door, knocked your door down, who's actually responsible for it? You didn't do it. It wasn't your fault necessarily, but you take responsibility and accountability for it. That's what we need more of it in America. Most people are thinking the government should pay off their student loans, and they actually believe that. They fundamentally believe, well, it's an unfair system, so I'm going to have the government pay off my loans. I'm not debating it's an unfair system, but life's unfair. Get used to it. If you agree to take on the debt, it's your responsibility. You'll be more successful as a result. You'll thank me after you get through this little resistance you're dealing with, hearing me talk about that. Once you get through that resistance, you'll do a lot better on the other side. And so accountability was the number one thing. I took accountability for our stuff. We had $304,000 of debt. We wiped that $304,000 of debt off in 5 years. 5 years. $76,000 of debt in 1 year. So the non-mortgage debt was gone in 1 year. We became financially free in about, let's call it, I was 21, we started 22 or whatever. I'm now 30. Became financially free at 32. So about 10 years, about 1 decade, we became financially free. And within about 7 years, we became millionaires during this journey because we took control. And how did I do it? I built an automated financial system and I let time do its thing. But if you're here today, how can you take control of your life? How can you take it to the next level? You obviously can go into Budgetdog Academy and make this a reality today. If you want to do it on your own, totally fine. Good luck guessing. Good luck going to Google. But here's where you want to start: is you want to do a budget, a balance sheet, an amortization schedule, and a step-by-step roadmap as to what you're going to do. Those should all be automated. So the sheets that you're building, balance sheet, your net worth, your assets and liabilities, where you currently sit, dream on that exact balance sheet, where you're at, point A, where you want to get to, point B. How do you connect the dots from point A to point B? That's the hardest challenge for most people. Cash flow that goes into specific accounts to get you from point A to point B. If I put gas in this car, this Toyota, it's going to get from point A to point B. Will it get there as fast as a Lamborghini from point A to point B? Not necessarily. Do I have a better odds of crashing that Lamborghini potentially? Yes, because I'm going faster. I might be a little more reckless. And so maybe that Toyota fits your situation a little better. Your vehicle might be different than the next person, what I'm saying. So it might be, for some people, a brokerage account, a 401k, an IRA. Some people might use an HSA and a brokerage account. Some people might use a 401k and IRA only. Some people might only use a brokerage account. Everybody's vehicle to get from point A to point B is different. If you educate yourself, it's very easy to select the vehicle that suits your needs based on your goals that you set out. That is the balance sheet. That's what you're trying to do there. Now, where this comes into play with the other sheets is on your balance sheet, you have listed liabilities, asset values and liability values at any given point in time. So I update my balance sheet quarterly, every single quarter, 3/30, 6/30, 9/30, and 12/31. Now, the amortization schedule is a debt payoff timeline schedule. So I'm going to take all my liabilities on my on my balance sheet, and I'm going to put those in their own amortization schedules, showing the details of the loan, the principal payments, the interest payments, and any additional principal payments I want to make, and how long that actually takes, and what my progress is at any given point in time. That is my amortization schedule. That will tell me definitively how long this debt's going to take to pay off. So when we paid off our debt, there was no guessing. There was no like, I'm going to pay a little extra per month, whatever the case is. I knew specifically based on the sheets that I laid out what I was going to pay towards this based on my budget, which is the next one, which gives me my cash flow. My cash flow is the lifeblood of my financial situation. I can have all these goals, I can have my debts laid out, but if I have no cash flow available because I'm not budgeting appropriately, I don't have a zero-based budget, and I'm not making a little bit of sacrifice when I have all this debt, I'm never going to make it. And so what we did was we set the standard. This is our free cash flow available. We fixed that payment. So that extra money left over after my income minus basic expenses was going to all of our financial goals on our balance sheet. Some of those were obviously debt payoff. Some of those were investment goals. And so that cash flow, we made educated decision-making process on this of as to, let's say, I think at the time we had like $2,000 extra cash flow. Where should this $2,000 go in line with our goals that we have listed out? Should it go to this debt? Should it go to that debt? How fast should it go to the, this investment? Where all this should go? It should be very detailed. It should be very clear cut. Now, once you get to the conclusion through the math equation on the actual spreadsheet, then I want to automate this process. So if I take this extra, $1,000 of the $2,000 available and I put it to my student loans, how fast that will help me pay this debt off. In fact, when we got all of this cash flow together and we started paying off this debt, that $40,000 took 6 months. It went from like a year and a half to 6 months because we paid additional principal payment. And we defined what that would look like. And so when we had the extra money, we then automated that in my student loan portal. The debt pay down was automated, my investments were automated, and my bill pay were automated. None of this should be manual. If you do this manually at all, you don't have a good plan. You're going to manually hurt yourself. I guarantee it. The other thing is when you have these systems working together, it should be super simple. Like everything should be decided before it happens. You should know specific dates that debts are going to be paid off. Your anxiety will go down here today as soon as you put this in place, like instantly, overnight. It's easy. So once you have this in place, you know when you're going to pay off the debt. You know when you're hitting millionaire status. You know when you'll become financially free. You know when a spouse is able to quit work because you planned it all out and you've automated it so you can't mess up the system. If you've already decided, hey, I've looked at all of the math. Here are my 3 sheets. Here's what's supposed to happen. Then I'm going to go into these various different portals, my bill pay, my debt pay down, my investments. And I'm going to automate what I told myself I was going to do. And then I toss the keys out and I go live life. It's going to happen the way you just planned it out. There's no maybe not. And so the only reason you might not get there is if you manually adjust what you played out. It's as simple as that. And so you have to build a sustainable long-term plan and expect time to be a thing. And you know the timelines of everything. That is exactly how I fixed this issue. I took accountability. I built an automated financial system. This is what I've helped thousands of students do, literally 2,000 and counting at this moment within Budgetdog Academy. If you're looking to talk to my team about, is this the right fit for you? You have to make over 100,000. You have to be committed. You have to want to change your life. And if you have a spouse, make sure your spouse knows me, likes me, trusts me, and isn't a big skeptic. If you're that person and you're looking to pay off debt, you're looking to invest, you're looking to optimize your finances and take it to the next level, you're looking to put that cash into the market that's sitting on the sidelines, literally losing to inflation. If you have those situations or you're one of those situations I just listed, and you're usually 25 to 50 years old, you need to be in Budgetdog Academy to change this overnight. We will work with you one-on-one to make this happen. You can talk with my team, see if it's a good fit. Obviously, the purpose of the call is to join the Academy. This is a big investment in yourself. If you look at this as a cost, you're not going to make it anyway. This is an investment in your financial future, in your life. The way your life plays out will be this academy. This academy is going to change your life drastically. I'm very bullish on it. Done it for thousands of people. I've seen the results, obviously. The reason I'm so bullish on it and why I'm so confident is because I did it myself. I've actually proven it out myself. And then I took my frameworks and I applied it to everybody else that takes these frameworks and applies it and sees the 6-figure the 7-figure results people are getting. People are becoming millionaires. People are increasing their net worth 6 figures in 6 months, in a year, doing crazy things, paying off $40,000 of debt in 1 year. Like, they're doing all the things I did plus more because they make more money than I did at that time. And so they're using my frameworks, they're using the stuff, and they're taking to the next level, and they're using community, they're using one-on-one, they're using education, all of the stuff, access to investment deals to exponentially move their net worth. And that's exactly what you need to be doing. Accountability, building an automated financial system, and expecting time to do its thing. And you will not make the same money mistakes that I made early on. And so if I can teach you anything, it's to do not what I did early on, but to do what I did after I found out I was making those mistakes. And that was my biggest money mistake, is just going with the flow, taking on debt, expecting that society was going to guide me in the right path, when in fact, we are in a weird time where society does not guide us in the right path. And in fact, they only hurt us at a substantial rate if we follow exactly what they're telling us to do. We have to wake up. This is the matrix. If you don't wake up and you stay in that little bubble your whole life, you're not going to make any real progress. And so I hope that you take this and you apply it to your life. I can't force you to, it's on you. Again, a lot of people will tune out and just be like, oh, I'm just going to go on with my life. But for those that really want to change their life, you guys have the resources and tools in the show notes below to go to that next level. And I expect you to go to the next level. If you're listening to this, don't waste your time. Take the proper action I'm saying, because I've been there, done that, and I've helped thousands of people do the same. I've overcome anything financially, and I've shown how other people can do exactly the same. It's on you guys. I appreciate everybody, and I will see you next week.
You've been listening to Money on My Mind with your host, Brendan Schlagbaum. If you found value in today's discussion, share it with someone who could benefit from it too. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, so you never miss a money mastery tip. Until next time, stay passionate about your financial journey and keep taking bold steps towards your money goals.